practices. Thank you, LeighAnn, for joining us today for the conference, and I'm going to pass it off to you now.
Aw, thank you so much. Thanks for that kind introduction. Hi, everybody. You've survived. It's the end of, well, it's the end of my workday. Where I am in Ohio, it is 3 p.m. So it's the end of the day as where you're all coming to lunch. So I invite you to eat, right? Please take care of your bodily needs as you need to. I have my water ready to go here, but I'm so glad that you have taken the time to come to this session. I saw this on one of the listservs, this conference, and I was like, oh, AI is my jam. But oh my goodness, open education resources and universal design for learning and just talking about accessibility, right? All of these things are great. But unless they're accessible, unless we make these things accessible, AI doesn't immediately make things accessible for us. So that's where I was like, oh, I got to do a presentation. So I was grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk about this. I hope and I invite you in the chat to where are you tuning in from? Where I've seen there's people from Virginia, other people from Ohio, Washington. Where are you tuning in from, and what is your role? I'd like to see what the diversity of folks we've got here before we move forward. Because, hi, yes, thanks. He introduced me. I use she, her pronouns. LeighAnn here. And as he said, I'm an assistant director now since I've turned in my profile. So, yeah. It's a fun. I still get to do my same job. I get to do faculty development at the institution across 8 different campuses. My background's in bioanalytical chemistry, and then I went to the College of Ed, and so it's all about helping faculty and supporting faculty, adjunct instructors, and staff facilitate learning experiences. Where we go: Ontario, Lakewood, ESL, ABE, Washington, instructional design manager, associate professor, OER champion. I like that. Take that, right? Label yourself. Do that. Yes, tuning in from Washington, interior design. I will say the one thing I do appreciate from my previous institution, oh gosh, it's been 9 years since I've been here in this work that I'm doing, was that I was STEM before. So now I get to work with fashion designers and architects and everything else. And so it's eye-opening to see the different contexts that you all work in. Instructional designers, you might have your specific unit you work within, teaching learning curriculum, right? You all have different things. And so hopefully today will be productive for you. So again, I welcome, and maybe I'll just put up my next slide that says that. I invite and welcome your participation. So whether that's via chat, typing in the chat, emailing after the session, sharing ideas with others, I want this to be this open, hey, that LeighAnn person said this thing, use it, talk about it, go for it, spread the word, ask me for my slides. I'll email me, I'll email you my slides. And also you can turn on your microphone. I know that's been less so. I've been a part of the sessions earlier today. I think we've had one person who says they're a notorious unmuter. And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm stealing that. So if you're a notorious unmuter, please unmute. Raise your virtual hand. Raise your physical hand if you're on camera. However you are, come as you are, or I also respect your decision to just be present. You've been a part of possibly 3 other sessions, so your brain might be tired and you're just kind of trying to seep a little bit more in before they're done with the day. So however you want to make your experience visible, go for it. Thanks, Ronald, for putting that in there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and my website, which I'll show you at the end. But yeah, so I want to hear from you because there's lots of different experiences here. We have an OER champion, but I want to see where your expertise is related to AI and OER. So the quadrant 1 down here in the bottom left would be you're an explorer of both, of OER and AI. 2 and 3 are maybe you're more expert in OER or you're more expert in AI, so you would be in quadrant 3. Or if you've got pretty good knowledge of both, maybe a 4. So I'm going to put myself at like a 3.8 kind of a thing, like a 4 point, I'm like a low 4. I'm not the OER expert, but I do a lot of UDL. But yeah, I've got the expertise in AI. I've been doing it since day one. I've had, over 100 workshops on AI. I've developed programming and stuff. So that's why I'm further over there. So what quadrant? I want you to type in the chat what quadrant you would be at. Where would you place yourself? 1, 2, 3, or 4, and hit enter. 3-ish, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 1. Nice. Oh my goodness, then I'm like, oh, we could talk about so many other things, especially if you're ones. Oh, but I'm gonna stay focused on the presentation topic of accessibility today, but between 2 and 4. Okay, so you're shifting related to the AI expertise. And so even if you're a 4, right? I am a 4 and I still have anxiety about AI. And so no matter where you are along the spectrum in these quadrants, right? You may be fearful, you may be uncertain, you may be excited, and that's okay. I'm just glad you're here today. And please put those fears and anxieties in like, oh, I don't think that works, or I hadn't thought about that before. Please type it in the chat or turn on your microphone the entire time. So, okay, one more thing I'd like to know about you. Um, and that is your experience with accessibility. So we're talking about beyond UDL. This is captions, this is those types of things. And it's on a scale of squirrel. The first one at Kent State, we have the black squirrel as our unofficial mascot. So that's where this comes from. So 1 is you're curious. 2 is you're knowledgeable. You've kind of embraced it like he's embracing the flower. Or 3, got this, expert. So if you can type that in the chat, I'd love to hear where you are with your experience to accessibility. So we've got a 1, we've got 2, 2.5, 2.6. I love it. It's exact, right? You've got to be like, where am I related to this? 2 plus 1, 3's, 1, 1.32. I'm like 3.1564, right? Who's going to do it? Someone should do it. 1.5. Okay. So again, we're in this space where people are just curious about accessibility. We have people that are probably much higher in expertise related to accessibility than myself. And so where I'm bringing my experience is lots of tools, free tools that are out there that can help improve accessibility of your open education resources that you're developing, you're remixing, however you do that, right? Lucas, right at the starting of today, was talking about the different ways that you can engage with OERs. And I really appreciated that stance. So yay, squirrels. Okay. So it's also, if you haven't noticed yet, I am a happy neurospicy person. So squirrels is a joke as well as a Kent State mascot that I am going to take a few breaths, take a drink, so I slow down because I'm really excited to talk with you today. So thank you for sharing that. You may ask yourself, why AI? Well, LeighAnn, what are you doing here? Why are you bringing accessibility into like that's a very specific topic, but there's enough of you here, you're interested, A. But AI is a tool that can help us do more with less. We are expected in all of our roles to be doing more with less time, less resources, and everything else. And so I want to just kind of bring a few things to the forefront that can maybe support your work and the work that you do or others that you work with. 1 in 4 adults live with a disability, according to the CDC, 1 in 4 adults. So thinking of the people that you engage with each day, the people who are going to engage with the materials you develop, we want to really put at the forefront, not just universal design for learning and having multiple modes of engaging with content, but also the accessibility of that content. And lastly, depending on the state that you're in and the federal laws that are coming about, right, there's increased standards and regulations. In Ohio, we have a digital accessibility that's going to affect in April. And so every content, everything that has been digitized, that is available on websites, on our learning management system, which we use Canvas, has to be digitally accessible. And so we have a lot of faculty, they're like, we have a lot of content that we put on our websites. We have a lot of content that we put on, and so how do we get there? So that's kind of how I've jumped into this accessibility in AI, not just AI and everything else. And so I just fully believe that we need to go beyond just making more resources for students, but we need to take the steps to make those resources accessible. Those are accessible, not just easily accessed, but actually accessible to the law. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, I cannot talk about AI without at least, and I could do a whole presentation on each of these bullet points and the research that supports and shows that AI is biased. It's a helpful tool, but it's biased. It lacks international perspective. It lacks non-digitized knowledge, right? There's a lot of books. Lucas mentioned this morning that the further we go into this, difference from 2022 to now, is it's trained on more things and it's gotten access to different books and Wikipedia and more things. But still, it lacks certain perspectives. It is contributing to increased electricity needs, so sustainability. We have students that don't want to use it. And so it's just something like, do we have to use AI? Can we use AI? Is there something else? So I'm not going to be talking all rainbows and unicorns of we should definitely use it to do alt text, right? To have all of our images have alt text. It can be a helpful tool to learn to easily do alt text. But once you learn how to do alt text, it is kind of faster to do it on your own. But it can be a tool for you to learn and to just get started if you have a lot of images that are up and you need alt text. It's also pushing copyright boundaries. We've heard Lucas talk about that earlier today. If you haven't, I bet they recorded it. They did record it and it's going to be up in like a week. So yeah, think about that. And it's got people prompting the question of privacy. I really appreciated when Lucas said earlier today in the keynote that, you know, you go to Google, you go to Reddit, they're using your data anyways. And our young people are not enjoying the lack of privacy, or what does that look like and how can we talk about it? So lastly, the AI caution that I always say, I've got Gigo. If you've ever heard of Gigo, Gigo, that's my mascot. Needless to say, Kent State is blue and gold if you haven't noticed with the colors. And so that's my mascot, Gigo. Garbage in, garbage out. Garbage in, good out. Good in, garbage out. Good in, good out. It can stand for any of those things, but that's what AI is. We don't prompt it appropriately. Even if we prompt it well, it might not give us good answers, right? We know it gives completely false output. And so anytime I talk about AI and using AI, I put that mascot on with my students, with my faculty that I work with. I'm like, just a reminder, right? We have to check what the output is for accuracy, for bias, for missing voices, for all these different things. So that's my disclaimer. Just got to do that. I did. The question in the chat said, did I make Giga with AI? I absolutely did. I used Copilot to make this mascot. And I said, I want a mascot that's blue and gold and that deals with garbage. So that's what it put out. And I'm like, I'm using it. So yes, good question. But yeah, oh, there we go. Okay, so I want to hear from you, right? Part of this is we've got an hour. You've been sitting in this for a while, so I want to hear from you. When you think of OERs, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Like maybe it's a specific resource you plan to use or make. Maybe it's something, maybe it's here's your subject area expertise. This is what I wish I had, or this is what I plan to do. But what comes to mind? Open education resources. When I say that, what is it? What do you think? I'm going to ask you to type in the chat, and I also invite you to just turn on your mic and say it out loud as well.
When I think of OERs, obviously OER and AI, and how I can use AI to create OER much quicker than
Mhm.
the more traditional way of doing it by hand or typing
Just
it
the
if you
brief.
want. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So there's speed with OERs and AIs. Todd is saying that student generated course material, so something associated with a course that you're supplementing, student saving, so something about money saving options. That this comes maybe from a library and faculty collaboration at institutions. You think open educational resources, you think library. Yeah. I sat in another session earlier today and they were talking about they have grants for open education resources. I'm like, oh yeah, my institution does too. And it's like, it's for faculty. And so as a staff member, I don't get to participate in that. And just different things to think about at each institution and what that looks like at your institution, what resources available, who you can connect with. If this is a big thing where you work or what you work for and what you do, or this is you're that, right? You're that explorer. You're that first person in your unit to start thinking about this. And what a great opportunity. Or you've been doing this forever and you're like, okay, LeighAnn, move on, right? Todd says sometimes simply making the lecture visible to people outside the classroom. Wow, Todd, the expertise that we have that we can share. And what does that sharing, does it have to be paid for in the classroom? You know, there are, I don't know about you, but YouTube was the first place where folks would go to watch videos, right? Like is this free education thing. There's some really great ones that I use for my children that they watch YouTube videos for, right? Um, and now there are educators on TikTok, right? Things are changing. Yes, they're still on YouTube, but there's educators on TikTok making quick videos, just sharing their knowledge to help increase that. So I really appreciate you saying that open education resources can be beyond the classroom. Yeah, thank you. And I will click that link later. So thanks for sharing. So today we're going to be talking about accessibility in education. We're then going to jump into generative artificial intelligence and how that relates to it. AI enhanced accessibility tools that are all around us. And then we're going to dive into strategies for making our resources, our open education resources, more accessible. So that's the plan for today. At any point, if you've got questions, again, I welcome them in the chat or turning on your microphone. So accessibility in education, right? First up is thinking about, it's sometimes easier to think about in frameworks of disability than ability. And so visual challenges. So that's something where you need text-based alternatives to consume visual content. For example, if someone's not able to see this presentation, I imagine we would have gotten an accommodation. I would have liked to think so, and we would have been able to provide slides ahead of time so that there's a slide descriptor, right? But I would add, hey, I am a 30-something odd year old white woman with brown hair wearing a white and blue dress. I'm in an office. Behind me is a tree with some butterflies on the walls, right? I would add that descriptor to help that experience be more fulfilling, be more full for someone. And know that visual differences don't just occur because someone is blind. It could be they have cataracts. It could be a temporary thing. So disability and ability is not a consistent thing. It could be permanent. It can be temporary. Hearing is another one that maybe comes more natural, is thinking of like, oh yeah, they can't hear, so I'm going to have captions in my videos, or I'm going to have transcripts or other alternatives to audio. Another category is that physical, which is content formatted for keyboard and assistive technology. So this is something where someone might have been born with cerebral palsy, and so they can't type as easily on a keyboard. And so they use voice controlled technologies and different things. It could be someone has a broken arm, right? It could be something that's temporary. And lastly, just a brief overview, there's cognitive challenges as well that people face. And so multiple modes of information and organized experiences can really support those things. And that could be something that is more long-term. So this could be something like dyslexia. And if somebody has dyslexia, they aren't able to necessarily read as well and write as well. And so there's assistive technologies that can help them engage with the material in different ways. ADHD, hello, right? Being able to read, I didn't realize until 2 years ago, because I didn't have it growing up, I didn't have it in college, that having something read to me while I'm reading it allows me to focus on that content. And it was just something that it never came about before. But there are tools that like this that are AI assisted that can support student learning. OCD, right? But it can also be just temporary, something like depression or fatigue. These are things that are recognized. And so if you think about everybody that you engage with in your life or that is engaging, let's think about those engaging with your content. I'm sure you're going to have more than 1 in 4 people that are fatigued, depression, or have more of a permanent challenge in their life. And so how can we make their lives easier? I was in a session just right before this, and they were asking, how do you want people to feel when they engage with your supplemental materials? And I sat back and thought about that. I'm like, yeah, how do I want them to feel? I want them to be at ease. I want it to be easier for them. I want them to feel more confident. I want them to feel like they have access to stuff. And so how can we do that? How can we ensure that happens with folks with different challenges? So that's where I'm here today. And I can't not admit that universal design of learning is part of this. So when folks talk about accessibility, a lot of times they go to, oh, okay, an elevator. Everybody can get to the first floor to the third floor on an elevator. So we should just put elevators everywhere because then it's accessible. But this is more than that. This is accessibility and universal design for learning. This is give them the choices. Yes, they can get to the top in the elevator and everybody can do that. So we're making it accessible for everybody. But maybe they want to ride the escalator. Oh my goodness. I will say my 6-year-old just discovered escalators last weekend. I don't know how we've missed it this far, but he just wanted to ride the escalator instead of going to a conference. That's what he wanted to do. He thought it was the coolest thing. And so I think about that and I think about the joy that people can get from interacting in different ways, not just because they have to engage in a certain way, But the joy that we can find in instead of reading something, listening to it, having someone's voice, the intonation, the tones, and the joy we can feel from that. Or instead of listening to something, watch a podcast play out, right? Listen to two people talk about it or different ways. And so accessibility, not just for accessibility purposes, but for experience and improving folks' experience with engaging with your materials. That's where I'm coming from. So AI enhanced accessibility tools. I had to put something in here. This isn't necessarily associated with education, so I'll get there in a second. But voice control, right? It can be. I don't know about you all, but if I have to type all of the time, I sometimes can't type and I'm busy. So it's not necessarily a disability, but it's a preference that I want to do voice to text. I want to have something transcribed for me. But there's voice control all around us with Alexa and Siri and Google Assistant. Thinking about more physical things, that Google Maps has AI assisted technology in it now with accessibility routes of what is accessible, is there steps, and those types of things. And then facial recognition, right? To get into your phone and everything else. AI is around us, and they're accessibility tools, whether we think about them like accessibility tools or they're just ways to make our lives easier, right? Depending on where we are. And that's just that. I will say, if you've never heard of waymapnav.com, I bet Ronald's going to beat me. But I'm going to try nav.com. Haha, I beat him typing it in the chat. This is a way to help folks with, to help folks see, to visualize the world around us. And so if you can imagine, if you are hard of seeing, like you're not able to see clearly everything, but you can have someone describing it to you, right? There are folks that walk around with someone, they have a stick, or they have a partner, a co-partner that talks about the world around them. There's an app that does that, but it's not frequently done on campuses. So think about it like a subway station, where to walk, where you're going, what's around you, or some public place. We can do this at our own institutions using waymapnav.com. So that's something that I just put out there as like a crowdsource thing of, hey, if you don't have this on your campus, this would be a great project for students to do, and them engaging with AI and how to do that. So, okay, off my high horse. What are other ways that you think of? What are other ways that AI can enhance accessibility related to open education resources? Physical, or I want to focus on physical or visual challenges right now. Do you think of anything else? Something maybe that you've noticed in your life for physical or visual challenges? So if you want to improve someone who can't see something, do you have any sources that you've used in the past? I saw there were some of you that had, twos and fours, or 3.5s kind of things on that category. So maybe?
Um, I have an example.
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't know if anybody saw it in the chat, but I'm in South Korea right now. I'm visiting family out here, and I use my phone. I have there's like a Google Lens app, and anytime I don't understand something on a sign, like my Korean's okay, but there's still like a lot of words that I don't know, I can just hold my phone up and it will translate everything that's in Korean into English for me, and that makes operating in this country a lot more accessible.
Yeah, my goodness. And so you can think about it as like there's language barriers, right? That is a challenge. That is a real thing. Or English language learners, right? Some of you are teaching ESL, I saw in the chat and whatnot. And so translation, that's a major thing of being able to read what is there, let alone not being able to see it or understand it. So yeah, thank you for that AI translator. Appreciate it. Feel free to drop things in the chat as well. I'm going to continue moving forward. But the first thing that came to my mind was alt text, right? You have people that are using screen readers to go through your open education resources. And Todd says in the chat, the current text to phone apps that read text is really amazing. For example, birdsong identification types of things that capture the surrounding in an amazing way. Yes. And how we might not think of that as a learning opportunity, right? But how, if we have faculty, I have, faculty in geology and horticulture and in biology, that they want students to go out and identify birds, and how that could be part of the learning process, that maybe wasn't able to happen before. Yeah. And Jess says making sure docs can be read by screen readers, right? And I don't know about you, but I hate a document that I have to read that is just words. It's for me, it is like, how am I going to get through this, right, this chapter? Even if you look at chapters and books and stuff, right, there's images and things. And so a screen reader needs to have alt text, but AI can help with that. AI can help with that. And so I'm going to bring up, I'm going to share for just a moment in the chat. Um, I told Ronald, I said, I got this, don't worry about it. And I do, because I'm trying to do two things at once. And so what I'm sharing with you right now is what's in the chat. And this is an AI accessibility creator, right? And so what it does is it takes any image that you have. So whether this is a personal image, maybe this is an image that you generated using AI, maybe it's an image that you got off a Creative Commons website or something of the sort. I'm going to chuck in the one that I had up a second ago. Yes, LeighAnn, your computer just decides to not let you bring that up for the second. So I'll just have to use a different image. That what this website does, it's from ASU. It generates alt text for you. And so which one should I use? I will just put this one in here. I'm going to drag and drop the file right there, as I tested this right before I got here to make sure it worked. And it's supposed to work. Come on, LeighAnn, you'll do it for me one last time. Third time's a charm. This is why demos are so fun. I know the meeting is, oh, that's probably why, because the meeting was I had that browser thing up. Let's try one more time. Okay, I can do it the old-fashioned way. Go to desktop. Don't mind my desktop. I have a few hundred pictures and things up on my desktop.
While you're loading this up, LeighAnn, I
Yeah.
almost before you got to this page, I almost put the link to this exact alt text creator. I used this at a conference in May to make the alt text for this conference flyer.
Yeah. And as I'll get to in just a moment, it's not, look, watch this. It's not doing it today, right? I just did this a second ago and it worked right before this, right? And as Todd says in the chat, right? Old fashioned is okay too. And so I'm going to come back to that. I'll see. It might just take a moment. It didn't take this long before. I'll try one last time. Third time's a charm. And it's not working today. It's not working right now. It worked 10 minutes ago. But the thing is, as with anything, it is the key to it is that it's objective, right? The key to any alt text is that it's objective, it's concise, and it's descriptive. And a lot of alt text creators out there that are for free aren't that. They give you a paragraph description, right? We don't want a paragraph description. We want it clear and concise. And so something else to think about is it's still not working. Oh, I'm so sad. At least not all demos are going to be bad for you today. But just with caution that alt text generators can be useful, but we have to make sure that what it's generating is associated with a purpose, right? So like in this case, the example that I have on the that I'm sharing on the screen right now is a Copilot generated image of create an image of a brainstorm. And so how would I want to describe that? How would you describe that? I want to hear from you. I want to hear, yep, text adjuster tool. How would you describe this image in one sentence? Go ahead, type it in the chat. How would you describe the image that is shared right here in one sentence? Brainstorm, yeah, that it's a picture of a brainstorm. And while we might, and that might be enough, right? We want to use images purposefully, and I want you to brainstorm right now. So that type of a thing. Yeah. Morgan said, I found that the ASU site, I have to clear out the last image before I can put up the next text. Yeah, and I cleared out the image and it wasn't working. And I even did a new window, like I completely regenerated a new URL, a new browser window with a different authentication and hope that it would work. So I'm not sure. Ronald, would you like to? Is it working for you?
I think so. Let me see if it oh yeah, let's see. So I just did a quick screen cap of your of that brainstorm.
Yeah,
Um, so let me see here. This up. And so yeah, just put the browse there and then
there you
um
go.
if you go down here and then do you click that add details about the
I
image?
don't. No, because I
Oh.
don't need to add anything. You can, but then again, it's the timing thing, right? I just want it to do it for me, give me some ideas, and see what comes out from it. Yeah.
So yeah, here's the well, maybe I just broke it.
Lightning. No, you're okay. Lightning striking a brain, right? But
Oh,
it's
here we go. Here we
other
go.
people. Here we go.
The image. Oh, did it come up with something? It says here the image features a human brain suspended in cosmic scene with vibrant lightning bolts emanating from it. And then it also has the alt text down here. And
Yeah.
then what was really cool when I did it in my demo for the flyer for this institute, it transcribed all the text that was on the flyer.
Yeah. And so that's a really important point of what is the purpose of the image. Again, going back to that purpose, and I can reshare my screen. Thank you so much for sharing that because I was like, oh, this is such a, like, I want to show you that it does these things. Um, there we go. It can give you that large description, but it also gives you that alt text. And it's a good place that you can start and think about, is this what I want folks to know? Is this the importance of the image? And Todd says, remember, good to remember the long description is different than alt to text, correct? And I so appreciate y'all putting in the chat the different descriptions. With the brain image, the alt text I would use depend on the use case. Yep. The only thing I don't love about the ASU tool with some of the others is you can give a prompt along with the image. Yeah. A colorful human brain with lightning bolts in a cosmic scene surrounded by swirling clouds and bright star. So this is just one thing. This is just one way that you can, any image that you use, think about if you can't start brainstorming, the alt text. Use an alt text creator, use the ASU one just to see. You don't have to put anything into it, just to see what's coming out from it. Okay. Another thing, and this is where anybody I ever talk to about accessibility, I do lots of collaborations with our student accessibility offices at our institution. And they're like, don't make any PDFs. And I'm like, we have hundreds of PDFs on our website. And they're like, let's just take them down, right? PDFs are not accessible. And I'm like, well, but we're told to make PDFs of everything. Well, guess what? If you try to make a PDF accessible, it is extensive amount of work to tag everything. It's a bunch of tags. If you've ever worked with this, raise your hand, right? There would be nothing left. Yes, Todd, there would be nothing left if we don't have PDFs on the websites. And they're PDF readers and all sorts of things. We change everything to PDFs. It's just a format that folks use. They are rarely accessible. And so something you can use with Adobe for free is its accessibility auto tag. It's an API. And what it does is it does it for you. So it's a good starting place. Again, just like with auto captions, they might not be perfect, but it's better than what was there before. And at least you're making attempt. That's where I'm standing of it's better than what it was before. So yeah, so you can use this Adobe PDF Accessibility Auto Tag API to help make your PDF documents more accessible. Okay, so that was physical and visual. Todd says it was not that long ago that the messaging was don't use Word documents, make them PDFs. I know, and now I feel like it's the opposite of, well, PDFs are too hard to make accessible. And yeah, really interesting. Thank you, Ronald, for putting that in the chat. So that was more of the visual and the physical. So I want you to think more about those with a hearing disability. How can we support people with hearing disabilities or hearing differences with our open education resources? When you think about your open education resources, what is one way we can make our content more accessible to those that have hearing differences? You can put it in the chat, you can turn on your microphone. Make sure you have captions and auto descriptions. Thank you, Morgan. Yes, absolutely. Making stuff is captioned correctly, making sure stuff is captioned correctly. Todd, I appreciate that extra detail because there are times where captions are not perfect, right? Or if you have an accent, or if you're translating between two different languages, maybe you start in English, you have a little bit of Spanish here. It isn't perfect, right? So captions aren't perfect. So checking those after the fact, yeah, for sure. And feel free to keep putting stuff in the chat as well. Something that I just write today, and I should have, oh my goodness, I can't believe I didn't say this. At the bottom of your screen, there are 3 dots where it says more. And I just make this assumption, and that's not very fair. there are three dots at the bottom of our screen where you can click on, and then it says captions or transcript. So you can click on those so that captions are visible to you. But we're not always online in our environment. Sometimes we are. But for example, if we're making our expertise available to people live in person at a library, for example, we don't have someone necessarily doing captions for us. And so this is something that a lot of my faculty don't know about, so that they're teaching face to face. And I'm like, so do you use captions? And they're like, no, we're not recording. I was like, no, I'm talking about live captions within PowerPoint. And they did not know this. And so, hey, if you knew this, great. If you didn't, hey, here's a tip for you. But I want you to reflect on this. So within PowerPoint, and as I said, I can give you these slides. Within PowerPoint, if you click on slideshow, there's a box, if you have the most up-to-date PowerPoint, where it says click box to always use subtitles. Okay. And then you can select the language that the subtitles are in. I am speaking in English and the subtitle should be English. If you've ever presented, here we go, Ronald's in Korea. If he's presenting in English in Korea, but he knows that not all the speakers speak English very well, he could translate it into Korean, and it can translate live his English into Korean. And so this is something that you can use, especially if you don't have Zoom and they're in their AI captions. We can go, and I'm going to do it right now. As you can see at the top of the screen, I'm going to say always use captions. And I'm going to start from the current slide again. And then I'm going to display settings a little bit differently. So at the top now, you should be able to see, the captions. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to move on to the next slide. And I want you to experience this. I want you to feel, now you're forced to have captions. One thing that we think about when we're doing presentations is not everybody has to use captions. But I don't know about you. When I have Netflix on or something, or I'm watching a show, I have 3 children, and it's pretty noisy in my house. And so I like to have the captions on. It's not necessarily because of a disability, because one reason is because I can't hear it all the time. And a second reason to have captions available for everybody is because sometimes we don't catch the content. We're just listening to it. We're looking at the visuals, then we don't hear the words. And so having that, as I'm also teaching my 6-year-old to read, having the captions on there also boosts his learning. So things to think about. Yeah. Okay. And so I'm going to go to the chat for a second. We are working on a page that instructors can put in a getting started module in their course to let students know about the accessibility features in the course content. I'm glad you brought this up. Yay. Yeah. PowerPoint, it does it. One thing I actually used AI for is making YouTube videos captions correct. YouTube is terrible with grammar and capitalization, for sure. You can copy the generated ones and paste them into Gemini or whatever and ask it to correct grammar and spelling. Truth. And as Jess says, all of these, especially with these, if we're using this PowerPoint caption generator, I don't know about you, but I walk around the room, and if you're not close to where the microphone is, if you don't have a microphone on, it might not capture what you say as well. So there's cautions to all of these. I am going to turn the captions off. I'm going to go and exit this and turn the captions off so that you have the choice to turn the captions on for this presentation within Zoom, that you're not forced to see the captions, because I have actually had students and faculty say that's distracting to me. I said, okay, I appreciate that, but I'm going to continue putting them on because we do not know who is hearing impaired or how this helps others. And so it's this cognitive dissonance that the environment's not going to be perfect for everybody, but what we can do to help support students or support our learners or whoever you're talking about. So, and I really appreciate whoever just brought up, and I'm going to, there we go. Who brought up the captions, that AI generated captions, even just regular robo captions, as they say, they're not perfect. Captions before AI would be, for example, we have liftoff from undecipherable 11 mission, right? They don't know. It just says, I don't know what this word is. As where captions after AI are like, we have liftoff from guitarist G 11 mission. Guitarist G11 mission. It fills in things that might be completely incorrect. And so that's where caution, you can still use it, but the actual phrase was in Terry's NG11. And so we need to be careful in using YouTube, Canva, TikTok, whatever it might be for generating these captions, or maybe you have something within your own institution, no matter whether it's AI enhanced or not, and that it's AI enhanced or not, that you're checking it. It just came up for me in Zoom if it was asking if I was speaking in Spanish, which was really interesting. I had to say no to Zoom. So maybe somebody turned on captions, and it thought for an instant I was speaking Spanish. Interesting. Okay. So caption generators, caution, they're not perfect. AI generation can complicate things, but always check it out. Okay, last but not least, what is one way to help make our content more accessible related to cognitive challenges? So ADHD, dyslexia, OCDE, that's our Office of Continuing and Distance Education. That is an office at my institution. OCD, fatigue, depression. What do you think? You can turn on your microphone or type it in the chat. What is one way we can make our content more accessible to those with cognitive challenges? Mm, yes, Jess. There's different fonts, sans fonts and sans serif fonts. Words. They're hurting me right now. Sorry. A variety of formats is still good. UDL practice. Breaking down into manageable chunks. Yes. Breaking up text with headers. Yes, yes, yes. All of these things, including phonetic words on technical terms, or even I have in my email line, I have a little microphone. And so folks can click on it beside my name. They can click on it. It's a link that takes them to me saying my name. Because just as before we had this presentation, Ronald's like, so LeighAnn? I was like, yep, that's my name. And he's like, Tomaswick, right? It could be Tomaswick. It could be all different things. And so I have that beside my name in my email, so folks can listen to it. They can hear my name. They can hear me speak it in the way that I say it. Yeah, instructions as lists, bullet points. Dare I say that is one thing that my faculty are always saying of, I'm pretty sure my students used AI to do this because everything is bullet list. Yep, check contrast and color blindness friendly. Yes. Um, if we have too many colors, this is something I'm not going into, but if there's too many colors or competing images and interests, we're not going to be able to focus on something. I say we because I am part of the cognitive disabilities. I have ADHD and some other fun things. So just keep that into consideration. But yes, as you said, breaking up large text. So good at chunking. AI is good at chunking materials and making fun titles to differentiate different sections, right? Or have those headers for different sections. For example, and I just want to dive a little bit deeper into this, someone with ADHD like myself, it's really hard to prioritize. And so someone who is not neurodiverse or maybe not neurodiverse or non-ADHD, you can differentiate what is important in a document, right? Or in reading something or in a book, in a chapter, right? As for somebody myself, everything's important. I have to memorize everything. Everything is really important. This image is important. This sound is important. This, and it's hard to differentiate that stuff. Another way to think about it also is not just differentiating what's important or able to pick that out. It's also with just getting started. If someone is looking at a document and the document is just a bunch of words, okay, yes, we're supposed to start in the Western culture at the top left and read across. But it can seem insurmountable. I have to get through this whole document. And so again, those headers, those checks, the different breaking up and chunking the material can help someone like myself be like, oh, I can get through this section. And then, oh, okay, then I'm going to do the next section. Or if I only have 5 minutes, right? This isn't just accessibility is not just for people with disabilities. It helps everyone, right? So having headers is, okay, I remember I can get through this section. It's got a header. And then, oh, okay, so this is the most important point from this part. Okay, let's move on. Or I only have 10 minutes to do this. I can't do all of this stuff, but I can go through these two headings, these two groups, these two sections of it. So thinking about it in that widespread area. But you can also, if you are comfortable with using ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Gemini, you can tell it you are an expert, not even putting your material in it. If you do not feel comfortable putting your material in it, right? You don't have to, but you can say you are an expert chemist. What are the most important points that I should cover in 2 hours worth of class related to redox reactions? Make the topic titles catchy and fun. You can prompt ChatGPT in these ways. You can also copy and paste your material into something like ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini or Claude, any of these large language models, and say, What are the most important points? Can you summarize this for me? You can ask it to make it a glossary terms and all sorts of things. So many things, but I just wanted to give that as you can prompt it to do that. You can also create alternative representations. So if we're thinking about meetings, this is another thing, right? If you're sharing your information with people, if you want others to learn, having summary of meetings, infographics. Lucas showed infographics earlier this morning of showing the information in a different way that's just not just words. So you can have AI and PictoChart. So Otter AI is just one example that does summaries of meetings. It also does transcripts and other things. You can search, you can highlight during meetings and everything else. Infographics at the end of the session, you can use PictoChart. And so we'll see. I'm doing it. PictoChart or Word Studio. I have it. I want someone to type in the chat a topic. It can be anything. Right now you can see the example is plumbing. So let's make this fun. We got 13 minutes. Give me a topic. Type in the chat or turn on your microphone. Syllabus. Okay, the subject is syllabus. We're going to say beginners generate it from A to Z. So generating a glossary term from something that you've developed or from scratch to help give that extra, right? This is universal design for learning, something else, a different way for them to engage in it. And I'm going to also do PictoChart. It's preparing my set of pictographs. Let's see, it's going to take a little bit of time because we're there. So a glossary term for beginners for a syllabus is course objectives, curriculum, learning outcomes, assessment, prerequisites, credits. Okay, course description, instructor, textbook, lecture, discussion section, office hours, syllabus, grading scale, deadline, academic integrity, wow, course schedule, participation, reading list, and midterm or final. Now, I don't know about you, right? That was 10 seconds. This could be a way that we engage our students in a syllabus in a different way. We give them flashcards or we make a quick quiz out of this, right? So thank you very much for putting that in the chat. Another thing you can do is make an infographic. And so I'm going to create an infographic with AI, and this is PictoChart. I'm going to beat you this time, Ronald. And our topic, let's get a different topic other than syllabus. Give me another topic that I can make an infographic for in like 2 seconds. OER, yeah, that's a good one. Open education resources. And again, just like that alt text creator, I can add some more information, right? I can describe tone and everything else. I'm going to say, this is for a audience learning about OER and wanting to teach others. Generate infographic, right? And so it's going to take a few seconds, but it can generate an infographic, just something else that we can do. I don't need to refine it. Here we go. Let's do this one. And here we go in less than 2 seconds. And right, all of these things are editable. You can change, you can save and edit the infographic. But it's OER introduction. It offers free accessible learning. Share this knowledge with others. 1, find OER. So locate reputable OER repositories. 2, evaluate quality. Accuracy, relevance, currency. This isn't too bad. Adapt, modify OER to suit your teaching style. And share knowledge. Teach other about OER's benefits. OER empowerment offers, right? So not bad. I mean, it's a little bit generic, but this is something that, yes, we could have a document that has this and has these headers and other things, but for a student to be able to read this document or see this infographic or use both, right? As this is that reminder tool, is that kind of summary tool of what they had to watch in a video, that this is something else that could be that supplemental material and that universal design, that other option. So I just wanted to share with you how quick these things are. I only ever show free things. They're always free to an extent. And one way to get around the free stuff is your email address. So you can use your email address and then add periods throughout. And it shows that it's a new email address, but it's not actually a new email address. Just a little tip for you. Todd says Canva and similar spaces are including some pretty amazing AI options as well. Yes, that is true. So that's PictoChart, Word Studio. Again, these are alternatives. It's that +1. But I'm not suggesting you do it for everything because engaging learners in designing their own could also support the retention of information, right? So this is that balance. We're here to talk about open education resources where you're developing resources for students and how helpful that can be. So maybe it's you want your students, if we're thinking about the learning context, you want your students to develop an infographic about something. So you don't want to make the time to make the example. You don't have the time to develop the example for them. So you have Pictochart do it for you. But there's this balance of students designing things and it being part of their learning process, and you designing something to allow for that greater retention or a different way for them to engage in the material. So, right, there's competing things here. I want to be truly honest with you there. Okay. Also, just lastly, we have a little bit of time, but instead of reading something, you could have something that instead of reading it, you could listen to it. As I mentioned with ADHD, I never realized why it took me so much longer to read stuff because I would have to put my finger on it and read it. Otherwise, I would start jumping around the paper and reading it, and it was so hard for me to comprehend reading. But now when I read, I have something read out loud to me and I can change the different voices. As I put my finger on it and I read it to myself, I'm also listening to it. And so it's an educational aid. So again, it's not always doing it for your students, right? You're making these resources, you're making these open education resources, but it's providing folks with tools that they can also use. And I think this was mentioned earlier. I think it was in Lucas's presentation, the keynote of you can have voiceover. You can have 11 Lab, and as I'm going to show you, because we have 3 minutes, 11 Lab allows for text to speech. So I don't think my sound's going to come through, but this is something where you could do text to speech, you could do speech to text, you could do voice cloning. It can do all sorts of different things. But what's really fun here is you can type your text in here. You can copy and paste your text into here. Thank you, Ronald, for putting that in the chat. And you can change it to like announcer voice, like a voiceover of a game or a sergeant, a drill sergeant. Maybe you want two speakers talking. Maybe you want recounting of like the old story, like it sounds like an old story or a customer service agent. Who knows? But 11 Labs is able to do that for you. And another option is where my faculty have loved this. So students don't necessarily, they watch a video, maybe they have to read something, but another way for them to engage, our students are loving podcasts. I don't know about you, but I also enjoy podcasts and hearing two people talk about a subject. And so with Notebook LM, we can design, we can write, we can input our information into do the to make a podcast about our topic, right? Our slides, our exact notes, our outlines, our transcripts, and it can make a podcast about it. Or if we don't want to input that information into it, we can just type a topic. So I would love to hear from you all what you want me to make a podcast about right now. Murph is another tool. Thanks, Todd. OER and AI. What are we interested in? Open education. I appreciate that, Todd. Yes, open education resources and artificial intelligence. So meta. You are all so meta. Nice. Okay. So I'm saying, hey, go discover some sources for me because I don't want to put my information in there, which is fine. I could. I'm just going to say, yep, these look good. Maybe I will say, no, I don't want to do this one, but I'm going to just import a few of those sources. And so it's using these resources, and it's going to turn this into a podcast, which is going to be pretty cool. So I don't know. I'm going to take it off the screen so I can continue and I can show you that maybe at the end, and we'll finish with that listening to part of it. But right, engaging with content in different formats can be so helpful for our learners. And so giving them these tools and allowing them to do that on their own can be really helpful. So overall, right, summation, we've got 5 minutes left for question. I just want to let you, right, there's lots of different ways that we can increase the accessibility or provide tools to our learners, to our people that we engage with to help our materials be more accessible or for them to engage with them in more joyous ways and in different ways. Do you have any other favorites? I'd love to hear if you have any other favorites or other tools that you use. Nice. Yeah, and Todd, seriously, go to Todd's talk tomorrow. It looks at that in a pretty interesting way. Any questions that you have? I am hoping that the Notebook LLM in the next few minutes comes through for an audio, but yeah. Oh yes, you can have my email for slides. That's the next page. So I can type it in the chat. It's ltomaswick@kent.edu. Feel free to join me on LinkedIn. All of that is with you there. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Other questions that you have? I'm trying to get Notebook LM to work while we're sitting here.
If anybody hasn't tried out Notebook LM, get on there and just put
Play.
put your textbook, whatever information that you have from your class, maybe just like a unit overview. The more the better, because she'll show it soon, but it'll have them chat about it. And have you seen it, LeighAnn, where you can kind of interact with the podcast, like where they're talking, and then you can like,
Yeah, that's
let's
a
say you
whole
have a
other.
question about a part.
Oh, that's a whole other conversation about AI agents and having this real-time conversation, right? They're out there. And so if you want to have like students going to ChatGPT at 2 a.m., well, you can actually have a conversational agent that'll just talk back and forth with you and it learns from you and it remembers you. So whether it is something like a documentary and you're engaging with learning contexts, or thinking about disabilities and having conversations, hard conversations. Somebody who has autism, has challenges sometimes in different conversations. So to practice the conversation, like actually out loud, not just typing, to actually have that conversation, that practice with an AI agent can be so helpful. Yeah. And oh yes, Todd, as I'm looking, it's still generating an audio. It is taking forever, and that could be my internet here on campus as well. But you can do a mind map now associated with a podcast. You can do a video overview. You can do reports. You can do, it's not just a podcast anymore. All these things continue to change literally daily. As soon as you think you have AI figured out, it's going to change. And while there might be anxiety with that, it's also we've got to embrace it. And how can we embrace it in ways that we're comfortable with, or how we can help others embrace it in ways that are helpful to their learning, that don't take over their learning, but can support their learning and in different ways. So yeah, questions that you have, y'all.
Actually, I think unless there's a last minute question here, we're kind of coming up on the hour. LeighAnn, I want to thank you for all of that information. You really packed it all in, and a lot of great stuff about accessibility, which I think is missing from a lot of the AI conversations that I've seen. So thank you for that, and thank you for your energy. I think we all appreciate that kind of towards the end, tail end here of the first day of the AI OER Institute. So thank you, LeighAnn.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And one more time, we have another day of the AI OER Institute. So if you have a chance tomorrow morning to make it, 9 a.m. We'll go from 9 a.m. to 1. We'd love to see all of your, I guess I was gonna say pretty faces, but all I see is names. So I would love to see all these names again tomorrow. So thank you all for coming today, and have a good rest of your Friday.
Bye, everyone.